Hello everyone and welcome to the showdown between the Greenskins led by the Baconator and the Beastmen who are going to be led by Morker the Chaos Cow. So this is actually a match from a tournament I'm currently playing in. So there's a gentleman known as Shadow Online Gaming who is running a YouTuber tournament. So there's a multitude of different YouTubers. You have Janet on occasion, Shadow's playing in it himself, just a bunch of folks. I think the Gobbo King's in it, I'm not sure. But again, there's a bunch of people that you guys probably know. And what's great about the tournament for me is it's actually an offline tournament. So instead of logging on at like 10 and having to play 15 or 16 games, which for me is pretty much impossible. With my tendonitis in my wrist, I can probably only play like 3 or 4 games a day without pain. So it's a very good format for me, very similar to the 2v2 tournament we had a couple weeks ago. So the first 2 rounds, if I'm not mistaken, are going to be Swiss format. So there's 2 groups, and then the second round, or I guess the top people from each of those Swiss groups, is then going to move on to a more traditional bracketed tournament. As such, this is one of my matches. I think this is my second round match against Janet on occasion. So in the matchup, we are going to have Greenskins versus Beastmen. So it's definitely going to be a wild battle. As far as my army composition goes, in the front line, I do have a very heavy core Black Orcs, which probably one of my favorite infantry units in the game. Just 50 weapon strength. They are just straight to business, just no messing around. Melee defense is very low, but they usually make up for that by having 110 armor. So we have 2 Black Orcs in the middle just to counter Bestigors in that style of play. And if they don't have Bestigors, honestly, Black Orcs are going to smash through most low-tier infantry pretty easily with their heavy armor. Top of that, we got 2 groups of Night Goblins on the outsides of the formation just to deal with skirmishers. So one of the best answers that the Beastmen have against the Arachnaut Queen, which is a somewhat common pick in this matchup, is Centaurs with throwing axes. So what you do in that case is you just get some goblins, you put them on the outside of your formation, and just follow the throwing axes around. Now, they can charge in and kill the goblins, but Night Goblins poison, and they're pretty formidable themselves and have silver shields. So a very good tool for deterring Centaur harass on the outsides of your formation. We got 2 groups of Biggins. So Biggins I just decided to bring in case he went Mino heavy or Chaos Spawn. There is kind of a trend in the meta now of people using Minotaurs and Chaos Spawn together and just having a massive Zerg death ball. Just all kinds of angry beasts and hoofed animals. So the Biggins are a pretty good answer. Oh my gosh, that is a loud motorcycle outside. But anyways, the Biggins here do have 42 weapon strength and a bonus for his large of 8, which is going to be very good against those type of builds. And you can see over here, Janet does have some Centaurs with great weapons who, the Biggins will do okay against, and he also has some Minotaurs. So they're definitely going to have a home in this matchup. For my leadership, I do have Wurzog, and he's going to be escorted by a Goblin Big Boss on a Wolf and 1 on a Spider. So the reason I like to bring 1 Wolf, it's nice from a cost perspective, but also the Wolf has 92 speed. So once you break something, you have the Wolf chase it off the battlefield rather than the Spider, which only has 78 speed. That's pretty much it for our force. The Arachnaut Queen is going to be anchoring our formation. We have some Skirmishers, Mangy Marauders, and the Death Creepers. Always pretty much a staple for the Greenskins, and that's it. So for Janet on occasion, he does have a front line of Ungor Herds. I think he has 4 in total, and I think they are the shielded variant, it looks like. So he's going a little bit more defensive with his front line. Secondary line, he's got some more Ungor Herds. Are these? Yo, these are actually Ungors, so these are just like the complete chaff unit. In the secondary line, he's got the Gore Herds. He's got some Minotaurs with shields. Probably a good idea against like Goblin firing lines and Skirmisher units and stuff like that. And honestly, the great weapons, I don't know if they're worth it. Like, even against the Queen, these guys still hit pretty hard. Even without the bonus for large, they'll be fine, I think. For Asham with Death, so he's got Feint of Beauty and Spirit Leech. Pretty standard for competitive play. Morker, in the back, he's got some Raiders, which I do like against Greenskins. And he's got a very heavy force of Centaurs with great weapons. So 2 Symmetra, I think they're, the same thing. So Centaurs with great weapons, Hounds, regular Centaurs, and I think it's, so it's the exact same formation on both sides. And they can overwhelm Greenskin Cav, and that's why I was like, I'm just going to get Biggins and a Spider and not really play that game, because I don't really want to try and contest the open field with the Beastmen. So without further ado, guys, let's get the show on the road. So right now you can see that these Black Orcs are going to be pushing in the front line. I'm not sure what I was doing with those Mangy Marauders. I think I just mismicroed them for a moment. But the Black Orcs are going to smash into the front line of the Beastmen, and it is just going to be pound town for these Ungors. And the Night Goblins, honestly, will outtrade these guys, if I'm not mistaken. I think they should outtrade Ungor Herds. I mean, their stats are a little bit worse, but they do have the poison. So in the meantime, Janet tries to come around the flank here really aggressively, and the Biggins are there to intercept them. So that's going to be very good. I basically just want to keep these guys at all costs off my Arachnaut, as well as some of my Skirmisher units. So I think I did get the Mangy Marauders back, I'm pretty sure. Or yeah, I did pull them back, so I didn't completely screw that up. But regardless, the Orc Biggins, you can see they're going to be holding up 3 whole groups on this side. And the other side, it looks like there's going to be a bit more of a battle. So these Night Goblins, he's trying to overwhelm my flank. So he's just using all the shock damage and all he can here to just kind of break through my Night Goblins. So I pull in the Forest Goblin Spider Riders. I use Effigy of the Get on this Bray Shaman. Knowing that a couple Fate of Unas is going to be devastating to my army, I'm like, I'm just going to go all in, just pour a lot of resources on this side of the battlefield and try and take out this Bray Shaman. If I can kill the Bray Shaman, he's not going to have Fate of Una for my Black Orcs. There won't be a Spirit Leech to help with the Queen. There's just a lot of things that could potentially go well. And this is very similar to like Teclis with Double Nobles, and Wurzog is a great Goon Lord. And unlike Teclis, he's actually very powerful in melee. 64 melee attack and several other good stats. So he's definitely worth bringing with the Goon Squad, in my opinion. In the back, I did summon some spiders, so that's why you bring the Queen, because again, they are going to have missile options, whether it be throwing axes or Ungo Raiders or things like that. So you really want to have some spiders to shut those guys down. So I did summon some spiders back there. And the Queen, honestly, is being attacked by a couple Minotaurs, but what's great is she's saturated with the Black Orcs and other supporting units, so she's not, like, fully surrounded. And you can see that Janet is just forcefully pathing everything after the Queen right here. Not a bad idea getting the Centaurs, but I can pull up and back this way or over and this way, and I have a huge supporting line. These Biggins are just monster mashing everything they fight. You can see the Centaurs getting cut to pieces. And the Black Orcs over here trading very efficiently, even with the Minos. And you can see the Minos are actually pretty darn beat up. So as long as the Queen doesn't get surrounded, I knew that he didn't really have any substantial ranged pressure, aside from, like, you know, these Ungors in the back who don't really have good AP anyways. So I do get his Deathcaster, and I decided to commit 2 Goblin Big Bosses, which might be a little excessive, but I figured he might chase me with these Centaurs, so I was like, I want to have some actual stopping power there. And the Bray Shaman is almost shattered, and there it's shattered. So there's going to be no more death, no more Spirit Leech. He did get a Fade of Unit and Spirit Leech off, I think. I know there was at least one of those, but again, I think there was actually 2. But the Arachnoid Queen here is going to get Ere We Go, and all my forces, and the Biggins are literally in their dream environment. They're fighting large, lightly armored targets, so they should be able to cleave through the Minotaurs. And you can see the Minos are just going to be falling to the pits of angry boys here. But Janet does get another Chaos Spawn summon, so you can see the bounce of power does tip in the favor of the Beastmen. So balance-wise, you know, while these Chaos Spawn are out, he's going to have a very good spike of power. But if I can just endure and, you know, not take substantial losses and lose Wurzog to just, you know, silly plays, I should be okay. Unfortunately, over here on the far side, Janet was able to get a good wrap on my Gobos. So the Goblins, I think with the poison here on the Spider Goblin Big Boss, I should be able to stop those Centaurs, but it's still going to be a bit of a pit fight. Regardless, Wurzog is going to be fighting next to the Queen, and Wurzog does have an ability that gives 11% physical resist to all nearby troops. So he, as well as the Spider, are going to be somewhat durable against the attacks coming in. And I do have all my Biggins who are trying their best to fend off the mobile forces of the Beastmen, but at this point I just bum rush them back in. I'm like, I need to win this Death Star. Thankfully, the Chaos Spawn are pretty close to degenerating here. They still have 12 models, but they should be gone relatively shortly. And I do get some Spider Hatchlings. So the Spider Hatchlings, let's go look at their stats. So those are Spider Hatchlings there. 22, 20, 23 isn't terrible. Especially considering they do poison, and Centaurs have horrid melee defense. It's really, really low. So that's actually going to drag a ton of those guys low. You can see Wurzog is just standing back to back with his Spiders, just fighting these guys off. And also Terror is a factor. So now that the Frenzy is off a lot of these Beastmen troops, the Terror route is, you know, a very real situation. I have Goblins coming back. Biggins, just a very big Death Star of Green Boys running back in here, and we should be able to secure the situation. And there's a group of 55 Biggins coming in. You can see the Brain Burster coming in, and the reason I use Brain Burster is just to get the proc from his staff. And if you look at that, these Biggins have 51 melee attack for, you know, relatively decent duration of time, so that makes a big difference. So you can see the Chaos Spawn are pretty much 100% off the battlefield. I do have the Arachnoid Queen, and just looking at his forces, yes, the bounce power is even, but he doesn't really have a whole lot left that can deal with the Arachnoid Queen. He has some Raiders who, you know, assuming these 2 Raiders right here got their full volley off just all into the Spider, they might be able to get it down like 20%, like maybe, but it's going to be tough because I still have so many troops fighting here. You can see the Biggins are just getting into Morker, who is a lightly armored target. And then on top of that, I do have the Hogmaster here who's going to get in there. He has FG of the Git, which actually does a fair amount of damage, so I can pin down Morker and probably route him off with the Spider Queen here. And there's the effigy. So you can see the bounce power right here is a little bit in Janet's favor, maybe just kind of dead in the center. But now the Arachnoid Queen and boys are really just laying it into the Chaos Cow here, and he's probably going to rout if not get killed in this situation. So the Centaurs do charge in, definitely some good cycle charging from Janet, just getting in there and doing shock damage to my lightly armored infantry. But the Arachnoid Queen just so tanky with the Biggins protecting it. The Biggins have definitely, you know, so far in this game been really solid MVPs. In a very, very good situation for me, I was able to get away from these infantry. So my Goblin Big Bosses were able to get back, which gives me 2 more heroic units. Granted, Janet smells blood in the water and he swarms over with his Hounds and his Centaurs, and my Goblin Big Bosses should be able to endure. And what I'll do from here is grab my Queen and as well as Wurzog and just kind of rotate over and form a new Death Star on top of this and just try and hold and, you know, endure the pressure the Beastmen have been putting on me. In the meantime, you saw I summoned some more Spiders over there who did dissipate, unfortunately. Is that another group of Spiders? I think it is. So I do get the Arachnoid Queen. So the cooldown had passed, and you can see some of these creepy Spiders just coming up from the pits here. Arachnoid Queen is just going to be holding off and terror routing these Beastmen, and the Orc Biggins just being patriots of the Greenskin people, and they're just going to be pushing back in here and protecting their Hogmaster. So things are looking pretty good. Bounce of power for the first time in the battle is coming in my favor, and I do have a very scary Green Tide pushing forward. I have Spiderlings chasing them off. You know, I have a Goblin Big Boss who's in somewhat good health for this point in the game. So things are definitely looking up. And Morker did come back, I think. No, he actually broke off. So he's broken. He's probably going to rally here, but I decided to chase him with Death's Creepers and Spider Riders just to ensure he didn't regenerate. Because this game, certainly, I mean, he has a lot left. And a couple good circumstances like Morker regenerating a lot could potentially get him back in, but I really don't think there's too many answers with the Arachnaut Queen. And you can see it's just monster mashing around, just using the Biggins as a buffer against the Centaurs, which they've been great this game. I was really happy with their performance. So the Biggins, in their last desperate fight, there's also some of these Ungor Spearmen coming back in, but there's more Biggins coming in. So the Biggins should be able to win this fight against the Beastmen Cav, who are pretty terrible in sustained combat. You can see that guy knows what's up. And also over here, we do have the Chaos Cow getting pinned by big bosses and by Wurzog and just all kinds of stuff going on. So that's pretty much going to be all she wrote for the Beastmen. I think, yeah, that's it. That's it, boys. So, yeah, definitely very well played to Janet on occasion. It was a very close matchup. And he had a very aggressive army with a ton of calves. So had I gone with the Rusty Arrows and a traditional Goblin firing line and maybe not brought the Queen, it could have been very tough. But I really think that the competitive build against the Beastmen should be the Arachnaut Queen. You need to force them to struggle with throwing axes and have to come in and you're screening them with goblins and Forest Goblin Spider Riders and just and then just winning the main engagement. I think that's the way to play that matchup. And honestly, I really like this build quite a bit. I think it was well rounded. Had he gone the Minotaur Chaos Spawn route, I think the Biggins would have really held their own. And the Arachnaut Queen, of course, is always a force of nature. So definitely like that quite a bit. And yeah, I like Janet's army. Personally, I do think that you need Centaurs with throwing axes. I think it's just like when you're dealing with the Tomb Kings, you really need those guys to bring down large targets. And honestly, worst case, Centaurs would maybe just replace these two Centaurs with the throwing axe variant, and at least that gives you an option against the Queen. And they still have pretty similar combat stats. But yeah, it was definitely quite a bit of fun. So like I said, this was in a tournament I'm playing in, so I'll give you guys a link to everything, and it's great. It's offline. I can play at my leisure with my old gimp hand, and you know what? We're gonna do our best. So yeah, I'll put a link to Janet's channel. Very well played to my opponent Janet on occasion. If you guys don't know him, make sure to check him out. He has an awesome channel. He does he does quick battle commentary, just in a very similar manner that we do here. But he also does cinematic shots edited in, so he puts a lot of time and effort into his videos, and they're definitely very solid. So definitely check him out. And Shadow Online Gaming, I'll absolutely put a link to his channel. He's the gentleman hosting the tournament, and I'll give you guys a link to the tournament rules and the brackets and all that kind of good stuff. So guys, thanks again for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and we will see you guys next time.